Welcome to the Insightful Player Podcast with your host, Chrissy Carew. In each episode, Chrissy interviews NFL players and other professional athletes to help transform our culture to be inclusive, kinder, and more loving. We hope to turn everyone into insightful players in their own lives. Chrissy is also the author of the book Insightful Player, featuring over a dozen stories where football pros lead a bold movement of hope. You can learn more about her book, Chrissy's coaching programs, and more episodes of this show at www.theinsightfulplayer.com. You can also watch other episodes on YouTube and listen through all the major podcast platforms. Now, here's the host of Insightful Player, Chrissy Carew.
Welcome to the Insightful Player Podcast. We have a very, very special guest on today. We have Jason Campbell. Many of you will know of Jason. He's a 14-year vet in the NFL. He's a quarterback, the leader of all his teams. He played for the Raiders, the Bears, the Bengals, and the Browns. And he was drafted in the very first round by the Redskins, now called the Commanders. He was the SEC Player of the Year in 2004 when he played for Auburn, and they were undefeated. And he was the MVP in the Sugar Bowl in 2004. And it got all the NFL teams were really excited in looking at him. And the Red Sox, I'm from Boston, but give that slip. And the Redskins were the ones that really won out. And he's also a TV and a radio analyst and a motivational speaker. And what's one interesting fact is that he and his friend from college, from Auburn, just got married, and they've been friends for all these years. And you just got married, a couple of months ago, Jason?
Yeah, 6 months ago.
Wow, congratulations. That's really a special story.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we was college friends. Both went to Auburn University. I'm 2 years older than her. So once we got to college, once she got to campus, we actually became friends and was always just close friends. She was my prayer partner sometimes where she prayed for me and as well and all my endeavors. And back in 2020, I happened to be single at that time, and she was single, and our friends talk about y'all always connecting other folks together. Like, we think y'all should connect. And I was just like, no way. That's my close friend. I can't do that. And, I want to mess it up. And then my mom was like, well, your wife's supposed to be your close friend. She's supposed to be someone you can talk to, laugh with, cry with, pray with, and everything. So it made me rethink everything. And then she mentioned it first. So we actually went out on a date and everything. And the first month was awkward because you have to get out of the friend zone of thinking and like, okay, I'm actually trying to date this person now. And then, like I said, it just made our conversations very easy. The fact that we had 17 years of friendship. And so we only dated for like 10 months, got engaged, and was married within 4 months after that.
Oh, that's really special. Here's a shout out to Shayla, right?
Right.
So happy for both of you. Well, thank you again for being here. I mean, you're such a wonderful role model. You're a very humble leader, and you're confident. You have a moral compass, and you have a tremendous work ethic. And a lot of people out there have a hard time reaching their goals. And, you had a long road before you got to the Redskins, now the Commanders. And what was your approach? How did you do that? Your work ethic is through the roof.
Well, you always have a dream and you always set goals for yourself, and you always need to be working towards something. They always say is idle mind is the devil's workshop. So, make sure that you write down goals and understand that those goals, it's not going to be a straight line to get there. You have to work extremely hard. You have to sacrifice. And for me, growing up, I had to sacrifice time away from my friends. They wanted to be out all during times of the day, and my parents made me come in, and I had certain curfew times. And I remember growing up that, you have to study and do your homework before you can actually go outside and play once you get out the school bus. So I just started then just creating good habits. And my parents set the platform for me. And then as far as like playing ball and getting involved with that, I understand once you sign up for something, quitting is not in your mindset. You have to see it all the way through. And would there be some bumps in the road? Of course, you have to expect some of that. But at the same time, you know what you believe in, you know what you can accomplish, you know how to achieve it. You just got to continue to keep grinding and continue to keep going, and understand, like, if something is that important to you, then it means it's worth your time. And for me, dedicating hard work in football and dedicating hard work in life, it's tough to be a quarterback. It comes with leadership, and it's the same way in life. A lot of people look up to you, and you want to make sure that you're setting a good standard, and that you're being a good role model to the kids that grew up in the same community that you grew up in, that's following you now. So for me, it was always just put my head down and work extremely hard, and no matter what comes your way, follow what you believe in, because sometimes that bump in the road is just something that's trying to stop you from a blessing that's on the other side.
Right, that's so true. So you developed a habit of knowing there was something good that would come out of that obstacle or that bump in the road, which is a wonderful, wonderful perspective to have, because a lot of people don't go there. Sometimes they just stop, think, okay, forget it, I can't go there. But that's not true, is it?
Well, it's not true, because a lot of people don't want to adapt to change. I was speaking to a group 2 weeks ago, and I was telling them, I was just like, a lot of people want to feel comfortable, and they don't want to have to do anything that makes them feel uncomfortable. So sometimes if you want to achieve greatness, or if you want to achieve success in life, sometimes you got to get out of your comfort zone and become uncomfortable. And in doing that, you'll learn a lot more, you'll see a lot more, and you'll be well advanced than you ever could have imagined, because you just decided to do something that didn't feel as comfortable to you at the time. But then over time, it became comfortable because you was willing to adapt to change. And that's part of being in my position as a professional athlete. We're always going through changes, within a organization, and even in the TV and radio. You're always on set when you're talking. Something could come up, and all of a sudden, you got to be ready and willing to go and talk about it and take in the information. So if you're just, always on the block of feeling like you always got to do the same thing every time you wake up each day, then you're not going to grow. So if you want to grow, you got to be willing to adapt to society, adapt to change, and be willing to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to fail. I always say there's no such thing as failure, but the only thing that can be a failure is the fact that you didn't try. And I always feel like you should try, even if it's something that, you may not like, or you may not grow into. At least you tried and you put it yourself out there. That's not failure. That means you took advantage of the opportunity to see what's out there for you.
Yeah, and that's so true. And, when you were in the limelight, you were the quarterback, you were the leader of all those teams. Number one, it must have been tough going through all those different teams, the transition, getting used to a new club and all the players and everybody involved. And also being a quarterback, the media could be really tough on you, right? There was a lot of criticism out there of anyone that goes to the top, and you were at the very top. And what I've learned about you is you never let that get in your way. You didn't get affected by that. Now that's huge. How can you help share how you did that with other people? Because a lot of people have a hard time when they get knocked down.
Right. I always tell people, when you're trying to do something, where you're trying to grow in life, or you're trying to achieve something, you're going to get some chatter, and you're going to receive some criticism. Like, think about it. Nobody criticizes someone that's not trying to achieve anything, just because, that means they're not having an effect on lives. They're not having an effect on your career. So for me, when you're getting criticized, that means you're doing something that you're supposed to be doing. You're doing something right. But at the same time, understand that not everyone is out for your best interest. So some people, even if you feel like you're doing great things, not everyone's happy that you're doing great things. There's some out there that want to see you fail, and so they will criticize you. So that's why I would say, be able to block the noise out, have tunnel vision. Don't worry about all the things that people are going to say about you. Sometimes there's a lot of great things that people say about you as well. I always go by the impression, if you're a Christian, you read the Bible, Jesus went through a lot of different things. People criticize him, and he's the only perfect person to ever walk the face of the earth. So, you'll never be perfect enough for everybody, and that's okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes in trying to do the right things. You're going to make mistakes in trying to grow, and even in your career, like you play in a football game, you're going to make mistakes within that game. And as a quarterback, sometimes you get too much of the glory, sometimes you get too much of the blame, and it's ultimately a great team sport. But understanding that the position that you're in, you're always going to be under some form of criticism. Even the president, is always going to be under criticism. And so any top position in life, it comes with criticism. And a lot of people shy away from, being CEOs of companies, being the general managers, or being in those leadership positions in sports, because they're so much worried about what people are going to say about them, and not understanding, like, man, it doesn't matter what you do in life. Somebody's always going to have an opinion, but that opinion doesn't affect you until you're willing to look down and you say, oh, I'm worried about what these people are saying about me. I'm worried about that opinion. Don't worry about that. Let it motivate you and let it push you instead of bring you down.
That's a really good point, to use it as inspiration. And as you mentioned, how Jesus was criticized more than anybody, but he had 12 apostles. And so that's one thing I think, what do you kind of support have you had in your life? Because I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, like I said, my family support, my parents, my siblings, also my close friends. All my friends I had in high school, we're still very close to this day. And the one thing about it is, I have people around me that hold me accountable. You want accountability people around you. You don't want a bunch of yes people around you. You want people to tell you no. You want people to tell you you might need to rethink that sometimes, because you want people that want your best interest in life. And that's the same type of people that I'm friends with. They ask me for my intake on certain things because they know I want what's best for them. So having accountability partners, having some people in life that you grow with is very, very important. It's hard to do a lot of things on your own. Like I said, being married has opened doors for me because two is better than one. You have a support system, and I just think it's the same way in life. A lot of people face depression these days. A lot of people, are committing suicides at a high rate. And a lot of it is, they feel isolated. They feel like they can go talk to anyone. And so you have to be very open-minded that when someone comes to you in a conversation, not to be so strong opinionated, but sometimes just listen and just hear them. Because sometimes you see in people doing things that they're not, that's out of their norm. Most of the time they're really doing this because they're reaching for help. They're reaching for someone to understand them or talk to them. And I just feel like for me, having those friends and family that got me through a lot of tough times in my life, in dealing with pros and in the NFL, and dealing with, even in personal life, going through some tough relationships and different things where you thought you was gonna get married and you find out someone's cheated on you, or or you get to a point where you realize, okay, this is not going to happen for you, and you have to, have that resources to go back and for somebody to be there for you that you can talk to. Because don't do things on your own. Don't try to think through things. Don't try to say, oh, I'm a strong man, or I'm a strong woman, I don't need any help. We all need help in some form, fashion, or way at some point. So always feel free to open and find someone that you can talk to, that you can trust, that'll help build you.
That's such an important point. And it's great for us as adults to model this for youth, so they'll start doing this at a young age, because none of us can do anything alone. We all need that support. And there is, a lot of sadness out there in our world right now with everything with COVID, the depression, our economy, the culture is so divided. What are your thoughts about that, Jason?
Yeah, it's very tough. We've gone through a lot over these last 3 to 4 years. Even from politics and different things. Politics has been used as a division over the last 4 years, and it's been very tough. And then you deal with COVID on top of it, and people lost a lot of loved ones to COVID, and so we've gone through a lot mentally and emotionally. So it's very important right now that we all try to find ways to come together and understand and get back to moral values, get back to integrity, get back to character, things that used to matter a lot in this world and in this society, it seems like we're getting further and further away from it. And the more we get away from it, we see the reality of things, how disasters and certain things just continue to happen. And we have to understand that, just take a step back and see, like, okay, what are we doing in life? If we continue to get away from the integrity and character and the moral values that we supposed to uphold, then what you expect to happen? There's going to be a lot of chaos and different things going on. So we have to, as a society, get back to instilling these things into our kids of togetherness, coming together, no matter what color you are, no matter what ethnicity group you are. We got to be able to communicate, talk to one another. We don't always have to agree on everything. And then just because we disagree, mean we become enemies. No, you can have disagreements and still be close and still be caring to one another. And not just be like, and I also just listening to one another, hearing each other's voice and everything. So we need to get back to a place of love rather than hate, because that's the only way we're going to grow in this world. It's the only way we're going to grow in life. And it's the only way we can accomplish things is together. The more we go the other way, the more we divide, and that's just not good.
Yeah, it's true. And love is stronger than hate. That's a really good point. It's much stronger than hate. And there's so much of it that's epidemic out there, with the, people more interested in power than service.
Right.
And that's one thing I know you're really into, is service and, lifting other people up and being a great resource for people. And I know that when you're feeling down, it's a great thing when you can go do something nice for someone else, because you always feel better. What do you
Right.
think?
Yeah, most definitely. Like, anytime that you do something for somebody else, it basically helps you feel better. It's the same way by treating someone. Like, you treat someone good, you're basically, just, it helps your emotion. That's why they say forgiveness is the best thing to be able to do, because the longer you hold grudges against people, you're only hurting yourself. But the quicker that you're able to forgive, you let all that weight from yourself go. And now you can begin to grow as a person. But as long as you're holding grudges, or you're staying mad at someone or angry at someone, you're only hurting your internal, and instead of having that opportunity to go and be successful, like, and understanding how to move on in a positive way, instead of worrying about how can I get back at this person, or how can I do this, or how, like, don't focus so much on those things. Be willing to have the forgiveness to move forward and everything, and learn from it. Learn from what happened. Be honest. Like, don't always think you're the right. You're right. That's the one thing. Like, everyone, we're not always right. Even when you're wrong, like, you need to admit you're wrong to be able to move forward, because otherwise you're just going to be living a lie, because you're trying to cover up something that you know is not true. So I would just say, just continue to just strive forward, be open minded, and be a great support to others, because it really does, Chrissy, motivate you as a person when you uplift other people.
Oh, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And forgiveness is a big ticket to fill. But it is worth it. You do it for yourself, right? Even if someone was horrible and there's no relationship possibility, if you forgive for yourself, you're right. Just like you said, it just lifts a weight right off of you, and it helps you move forward and learn. And someone taught me once that if you're being really criticized by someone and you just get really defensive and just think they're bad, you're good, and there's nothing there for you to learn, just assume, and that's nonsense, number one. Number two is, just what if you could just assume that whatever they're saying is half right, right? What if they're saying is half right? I bet there's a lot of wisdom to be gleaned from that. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the thing, because a lot of people want to say things that they feel like others want to hear sometimes, that instead of just being honest. I like, if someone asks you how you're doing, oh,
Mhm.
we have a habit of just saying, "Oh, I'm doing great. I'm feeling good." Yeah, but deep down inside, you may be going through something emotionally. You may be going through something that is really bothering you. And instead of being honest about it, you basically just said it to those people just to get them to kind of, see you that way, but then kind of move on, so you don't have to address what's really going on. And I think, being able to just say, a real person would just say, "Hey, life is good, but at the same time, I'm actually going through some things. And if you could just uplift me, or just when you're by yourself or something, just be able to just check in every now and then. Like those things matter, because otherwise, if you tell a halfway story, or if you just tell a complete opposite of how you're doing, or, for example, now you're only just drowning yourself more and more into whatever it is that you're going through. So that's why, especially nowadays, more so than in any, our young people have social media platforms. They've been dealt with bullies. They have to deal with bullies. They have to deal with, so many people criticizing them on IG about how they look, or, you know, and just talking about them in all different kind of ways. I grew up where we didn't have IG and different things in high school. We had Twitter once I got to college and to the pros, but we didn't have all these different things now that everyone have at their exposure. And all these things doesn't have to mean bad things. Like social media can actually be used in a positive way. It can actually be used in a way to grow in it as well. But most of the time, people take their voice on there, and instead of being supportive, sometimes they take it and they want to be negative on people. And you never know what that person is actually going through. And so we have to teach our youth how to deal with criticism that they see on these social media platforms, and how to not let it bother them, and teach them about understanding that people are going to say things, people are going to do things to you, but how to respond is the best way to teach them, instead of trying to shelter them from it, because it's going to come up in their lives. And I think the more that we can be up front with them and help them, the faster they'll grow, and it won't bother them to a point where they want to be isolated from everybody.
Yeah, that is so true. And another thing that I've learned is some of those people that are so critical are just so critical of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that helps me evoke compassion for them, even though that's not easy.
Right, because they're critical because they're not happy. And
Right.
obviously, that's the reason they're being so critical. Either jealous, envy, or they're just not happy. And and I just think if you can just talk to them and change their mindset as well, one by one, we can all get better.
Right. And everything you're talking about is building a really strong foundation. It's, for whatever your goals are, it's about all of who you are. You're creating a moral compass, understanding what your values are, having specific goals to grow in your character.
Right.
And that's that we need kids to be more exposed to that. A lot of those kinds of programs have been taken away from schools, because they don't have the budget for that. So I think we all need to just step right in and help kids grow inside.
Yeah, these kids definitely need foundations. A lot of them are just floating through life without any foundation. They're just, they don't really have a guidance. They don't have a game plan. They're just out there. And I think the more that we could evolve with these kids, and be mentors and talk to them and help them to understand, like, there is something out there for each and every last one of them. You just got to sometimes be willing to put yourself out there and go for it and try it. And sometimes it's just having resources. Sometimes kids just don't know how to get to certain resources to be able to do certain things. So I just think we got a ways to go as a society, in caring about our young kids and caring about our youth. But it all starts with the adults. Kids gonna do what they see adults do. And
Exactly.
so, it starts with us first, and making sure that we're doing things in front of them to make sure, because they hear everything you say, they see everything that you do. So you have to make sure what you're doing is in a direction that when you look at your kids, is that something you want your kids to do? So you have to ask yourself that.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a few moments ago about vulnerability and being transparent. And that's something I think is so important for us as adults to model for our kids, because we are lacking intimacy. I think if we could have more intimacy in our world, we'd have less division. What do you think?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like I was talking to some guys that played in the NFL actually about a week ago, and we was having a conversation because he coaches at a high school, and I told him I was coaching at a high school at one point, helping young kids out. And we both realized how a lot of these young guys don't have male like figures in their life that's pushing them in the right direction. Like, we see enough of them that have negative male figures telling them, "Oh man, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're sorry, you're terrible." and all of that. But we don't have enough of them putting their arms around them, you know, being tough on them, but then loving them at the same time. And that's where kids grow. And when I was coaching, that actually helped me as a coach to understand, like, man, I'm basically a father away from home to a lot of these kids. And you walk up to one of those young guys and you get on to them, but then you also put your arm around them and you love on them and you show them and you talk to them why you got on to them. But at the same time, a lot of these guys never had somebody give them a hug from a male figure and say, "Hey, I love you, man," and everything. And you never had someone to say, "Hey, you can do this. You can be pushed to be better. Like, stick with it. Don't quit." Like, a lot of them don't have those guys in their ear. They have enough of the negativity, but they don't get enough of the guys that's pushing them in the right direction. So even as coaches nowadays, it is very, very important to make sure that we're communicating. Even in the things that I do now with TV and radio, I'm constantly talking to the young guys on campus that's on the team and everything, and their parents, just trying to, get them to understand. Even parents, the pressure that they put on some of these young kids to be having to bail them out, tell them you don't put that kind of pressure on your children, and everything. So there's a lot out there that we can continue to grow, but we all have to have a part in it. Like, it's just not one or two people, but it's all of us that are adults. If we do better, then they'll do better.
That's so true. And if anyone's watching or listening and you know of a kid that could really use your support, or any person at all, reach out to them. And you'll have no idea how much of an impact that will also have on you. We all need to do that to be, get back into like a tribe where we help each other and care about each other. Because, as I mentioned, love is so much stronger than hate. We just need to be more upfront about it. There's a lot of people under the radar doing some beautiful things, and we want to hear from you. Tell us what you're doing. How can we support you? And who do you know that needs more support? Maybe we can find resources for you. So please reach out to us.
Oh yes, most definitely. We all need some support because every time you cut the news on, it's always seems like it's something negative, and it can drive you into a depression state because you don't ever hear some of the positive things that are going on in the world, and it's always seems like to be the negative things that always gravitate in the stories. And so we got to be willing to be out there and share good stories and share some of the positive things, because you're always focused on the negative things. It can drive you into a negative state of mind, and you need to focus on more positive things. You need to read more positive things. You need to be around more positive people. But at the same time, you can be around everybody, but at the same time, make sure you have positive people that's trying to uplift you and influence you in the right direction and trying to push you into doing better for yourself. And then you can take that and you may fall off and meet someone that's a negative person, and you may be able to talk some positivity into their life. And then they may begin to change and start to see things more positively. Then they may go affect another one. So, it's like I said in the Bible, iron sharpens iron. So this one man sharpens another. And, we always live by that term a lot in sports, because I got to trust the teammate beside me to do his job. I can't worry about if he's going to do his job and try to do my job. He's got to trust that I'm going to do my job while he's doing his. And together, collectively, at the end of the day, we both get a win because we both did our jobs that affected us as a whole group, as a unit, not individually.
Oh, that's so true. Absolutely. We have to help each other and trust in ourselves too. Like, people have a big dream and they have to trust that they can get through those obstacles and learn a lot and grow a lot and really gain a lot too. And you have a lot of self-trust, which is really a wonderful thing to model for the rest of us.
Yeah. Self-trust is that's big, because like I said, like, coming up, making it to the big leagues, it wasn't easy. There's time that doubt creeps in your mind. There's times that, you wonder if you're going to make it, or if you're going to get there. Even getting married. I got married at 40 years old. And there was times I was like, man, I've been trying to get there. Like, is this really going to happen for me? But I have to believe in the promise that, yes, it's going to happen for me. Yes, the kids is going to happen for me. Family is going to happen. And just like getting to the big leagues, you kept moving forward. You just kept moving forward. You didn't turn back. You didn't give up. You didn't quit. And now you look back at it, you just see, like, man, all those obstacles I went through, now I appreciate everything a lot more because it wasn't handed to me. And the obstacles that I went through for a reason, which has made me a stronger person mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and which has helped mold me into who I am today. So if it hasn't been for some of those obstacles that I went through, then I wouldn't be able to say some of the things that I'm saying now. And it's the same thing I went through in my dating life, where you was trying to get to the point where you get married and you just feel like you kept hitting a wall and everything, but you kept staying true that you know what's for you. And all of a sudden, who knew that I married a person that's been right under me for the last 17 years as a friend, So sometimes, we get caught out into space, just looking for certain things. Sometimes you just need to take a step back and just be thankful. Just start thanking God for all the things that's going on in your life and everything. And he'll give you everything that you need when the time is right. But a lot of time we give up on ourselves because things doesn't happen when we want them to happen. And it doesn't happen how we thought it should happen. Instead of realizing like, things going to happen for you. It just may not look the way you thought it may look, but when the right time comes, it's going to be there for you. And that's what I stand on is that's what drives me. That's what gets me through a lot of things. And because I understand like it's already been proven, things that God has done for me in my life, he's already proven, like even when I've doubted certain things of myself, but because I remain confident in him, it happened for me. So that's the main thing is staying true and believing in what you believe in and stick to it. Don't worry about what it looks like right now.
Right. And yeah, and your life is bigger than yourself. That's obvious. You make your life much bigger than yourself.
Right.
And there's a wonderful quote by, I'm going to paraphrase it, by Norman Vincent Peale. He was the author of The Power of Positive Thinking. It's an old classic. And he said, in direct proportion as you trust, you shall reap. And I remember when I had my first business, it was the 31st of October, and I didn't have my rent. And I had a meeting that day with a potential client. I had been really hustling, so I wasn't sitting around watching TV or anything. I was hustling. So as I drove to that meeting in my car without heat, I kept chanting, in direct portion as you trust, you shall reap. And anyway, I ended up walking out of that meeting with a check for $5,000. I'll never forget it. So everybody listen to Norman Vincent Peale. Direct proportion as you trust, you shall reap. It works.
Right. Yeah. No, it definitely works. And people got to understand like what you put out in the atmosphere as well, what you say. That's why I would say speak positive things over yourself. Sometimes I have to look myself in the mirror at certain times and say, I'm good enough. And, and I'm here by purpose and I have a purpose and we all have a purpose. So, that's the other thing as well. Like your purpose may be different than my purpose because we're all created, for different reasons to have different purposes. And that's the thing. Everybody needs to sometimes, I always say, self-motivate yourself. Speak positive things to yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror each day. If you're going through something, start just saying positive things about yourself or start repeating positive things to yourself. And I guarantee if you do it long enough, you'll start to see things turn in your life because you'll start having a positive outlook on certain things.
You're always so uplifting. Great advice, Jason. I know you have a shout out that you want to do today, but anything else you want to share before we go there?
I just tell people just continue to just trust in yourself and be who you are. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to, emulate someone else's life. And make sure if you are trying to emulate someone as far as like how do they get to certain success, make sure you understand the levels that they had to go through to reach success. Don't just look at the success and think that it was automatically given, but understand the certain things that they had to go through and understand that you're going through certain things in your life for a reason. But, you can also put yourself in a better atmosphere by just saying positive things to yourself and reading positive things and being positive to those around you. find someone else to go do something nice for. Find someone to call and be motivational to. Encourage someone else, and watch how your life starts to turn, and things will you'll get out of the rut that you feel like you're in, because those are only seasons and they don't last long. It's all about your mindset.
Yeah, go out and love on other people, and you'll feel so much better. And that's what we need right now more than ever. So
Right.
Thank you for that. And you have a dear friend that you really admire that's doing some beautiful things in the world. You want to talk to him about him?
Yeah, I have actually it's two. I have Taylor Beth Davis. She actually does my podcast with me. She's an Auburn grad, so she's into TV as well. You may see her on ESPN
Cool.
covering college football, and we do our show once a week, Believe in Everything Auburn. But then there's my old college roommate, Ronnie Brown. He plays number 2 draft pick in 2005 to the Miami Dolphins, and he went through the NFL, played 10 years, and he saw a lot of guys blow money. He saw a lot of guys come out of the league, hurting, and instead of being in a positive way, instead of being financially set for life to be able to help generations, they was in the negative because not taking care of things. So he's gotten into financial advisor. He went and finished his degree for it. And he passed all the tests. Now he's out helping other young men try to make better financial decisions, even in college. Then the NIL is there. So he's doing some really, really great things in the community as well. So there's a lot of guys that are trying to give back to the community in different ways. And that's very uplifting. I'm a godfather of kids. So, it's just ironic to see him doing some positive things as well.
Well, let us know if any of those friends want to come on the podcast. We'd love to hear their story so they can help us lift people up.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for having me, Chrissy. And it's always a pleasure. And like I said, I hope everyone enjoyed it. And like I said, just keep looking up and keep moving forward. Don't worry about what's behind you. You can't drive forward looking in the rearview mirror. So keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Everybody go out and love on someone just today. And maybe that's a good habit to take on every day so we can turn our culture around to be more inclusive, kinder, and more loving. Thank you, Jason. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time. The entire Insightful Player podcast initiative is dedicated to the late Tom Constantino.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Insightful Player podcast with your host, Chrissy Carew. Chrissy is also the author of the book Insightful Player, featuring over a dozen stories where football pros lead a bold movement of hope. You can learn more about her book, Chrissy's coaching programs, and more episodes of the show at www.theinsightfulplayer.com. We hope to turn everyone into insightful players in their own lives. You can also watch other episodes on YouTube and listen through all the major podcast platforms. Thank you for your comments, reviews, and sharing the show with others.